Hi, everybody, welcome back. And today we're talking about Fleetwood Mac, massive successful band in the 70s. It's such a big topic, I'll just break it up into bits and probably come back to it. So they date back to the 60s. They were a blues band, popular in England. A lot of people came and went. There were three guitarists in a row that either went on drug binges and got all psychedelic and had to leave the band, or one guy was like, it was right before a show and he just walked off in Hollywood and he joined a religious group. This was the hippie era, around 1970, and he just did it. And then another guy just cracked up backstage and had a breakdown, and then he went out to the front of the stage and he watched them play the concert from the sound booth without him. So they were furious, obviously, and fired him. So his name was Danny Kirwan, and he had kind of long blondish hair, and he's the one I wanted to mention because he went on to do a couple solo albums. And he has this kind of spacey, cool style that's easy to listen to. His lyrics are kind of sweet and childlike. He was on the early 70s Fleetwood Mac albums. And there's one called Bare Trees. It's this beautiful photograph of just these wintry bare trees on the cover. And they did well, but they weren't superstar albums at that time. So Danny was on Bare Trees and Future Games and things like that. And so he got himself together enough to do a solo album called Second Chapter, and there's a great song called Ram Jam City. You'll like it. It's really cool. Just check out Ram Jam City. And he did this cool reggae version of Let It Be, which I love. I've never heard a reggae version of Let It Be, but Danny Kirwan, Kirwan, did a cool version of Let It Be. And he ended up kind of disappearing. And back then, people would disappear. They would just be lost or gone. There was no social media to connect everybody or find everybody. So it was more of a mysterious time across the board. I mean, you could move to a different state and just kind of start over or something. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. But if you wanted to disappear and not be found, back in the 70s, you could do things like that. So even famous musicians could kind of move away and blend in and be gone. And that's it. Fleetwood Mac in 75, then it changed. Lindsay and Stevie came on board. And I want to talk about a song called Silver Springs because it's a beautiful ballad. It almost got on the Rumors album, but they just did not have enough room. So it went on the B side of a 45. A 45 was just a record of one song. And if you can find that, that would be collectible to have Silver Springs on the back side of it. So Stevie was, upset, and naturally she did not just want it tossed off on a B-side. And so it was around, people knew about the song, the hardcore fans knew about it, and for a long time it just wasn't released. You just couldn't find it, but yet it was popular with the fans. So finally, when they did their big comeback, it was called The Dance in 1997. Huge concert. She went center stage and she got that mic and sang Silver Springs to Lindsay, and it was a big dramatic moment. You could definitely check that out on video. She really put all of her effort into that and made it this incredible moment. And they released it. It did reach like number 5 or something on the adult chart. So it finally did get out on the radio years later. And the other thing is, there's a great song. I think it could be a hit record. I think it's a lost hit record. I have an ear for this. And honestly, it's called Fireflies. If they were to release this song today, I think it would be one more hit record for Fleetwood Mac. So Fireflies, it tells the story of the band. The flame is the fame and success that they all have. That's the burning flame. And they're all the five Fireflies. They all want to get close to it, but they don't want to get burned. And they don't want to leave the band, even though some of them were in relationships and breaking up. They just want to do whatever they can to be the Fireflies near the flame. So the lyrics tell the story of the band. They're giving it to you in this song. Great melody, beat, it's mid tempo. What they did with it was they released a live album around 1980. And you know me, I'm always looking for those bonus songs like on a live album, and they delivered in spades. They had a Beach Boys tune that they redid that's fantastic. Oh God, there's this beautiful ballad called One More Night. And then they did Fireflies, which was released as a single. And they recorded it live, I think, on a soundstage right before a concert. And it did get on the radio, but it was like a minor airplay thing. But definitely check out Fireflies. I think that's the key song that's been forgotten. And you know me, I'm like, this whole thing's like an attic and it's a treasure chest, and I'm looking for that lost treasure. So Fleetwood Mac went on to have many different chapters in their career, and we'll talk more about those chapters later. Like I said, it's a big book. Um, so the other thing I want to talk about today is what's a telephone? Before there were cell phones, there were telephones, and this is for my younger watchers, and they were, you know, about this big, and they had a cord, so you were limited to not just walking around anywhere you wanted. You usually sat in a chair or something. There's even telephone chairs. They're antique and wooden, and you can find those, and those are collectible as well. And put them in a hallway. They're really cool, and the phone used to be right on this table and chair. And so they were brightly colored. It was the 70s, so they would sell them in like yellow or orange or red or whatever. And you would dial it and you would call your friends, and you know, you would take turns. There might be only one phone for the whole family, and maybe each person would get 20 minutes or something, and then somebody else's turn. But what I want to say is, there was more space and time. You could go off for several hours, even if you were working, be out in the field and have some free time and not have to report back on the cell phone to your boss, or report back to family and friends immediately all the time through texting. There was some space. You were free to go for several hours during the day, and call me at night, or call me, later this evening and touch base. And so there was a sense of freedom. You could go out in the community and do things for several hours and just not have to constantly touch base all the time. And so there was less pressure, and it was more of an enjoyable time, more of a free-spirited time. I like to think of it as Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn's adventures. You'd have no attachments for several hours, so let's go off to a vacant lot. Let's climb a tree, or let's get a kite. Let's fly a kite or something. I used to go down to the stream or creek and look for tadpoles. And so there was, even though I was a suburban kid, I lived near the hills, and most people in California are close to nature. They are, even in a big city, you can find it. And so you could go off and do these Tom Sawyer type of adventures. And that's what I want to remember and share with people, especially the younger viewers, to put down technology and social media and have those fun and magic moments and free-spirited, what I call natural and organic moments, and not always constantly have to be in touch with everyone every minute. Think about that. Just have a few hours to go do a little adventure, and I still do that to this day. Like I said, I'm a 70s guy. I keep that with me. I'm the keeper of the flame. And I use technology today, but only to get from point A to point B, and then I drop it. I let it go and go back to my natural life. Some fun things about telephones: you used to be able to call people up, and kids would do prank calls. There was no way they would know who you were. There was not caller ID. So you would call someone up and say, "Is your refrigerator running?" And they would say yes, and you would say, "You better go catch it," or some ridiculous thing like that. So kids were kind of sarcastic in the 70s. A lot of us read Mad Magazine. You could do pranks and things like that as long as things did not go too far. Um, so telephones, a lot of times you'd call someone up, there would be a busy signal. This was before call waiting and things like that. And you just had to wait and call people back later. There was, once again, not this total sense of urgency. Things could wait an hour or two or three. It's no big deal. So, sure, telephones are also collectible, especially the old fashioned kind from the 1920s and 30s that you would pull out these beautiful old fashioned ones. And once again, it was a kind of a simpler, more relaxed time. And we had the technology of the phone, we could communicate, but we weren't in the need for constant communication. All right, I'm Mike D. We'll talk later. Thanks.